It's 11 o'clock. Bring us up, please. All right, Commissioners, back in session. This is on the record review of an appeal of planning control decision on an RV storage.
Good morning, Hal Jensen, Planning Director. I have with me Tristan Borquin, Assistant Director. I'll be glad to answer any questions. However, I will give you a brief synopsis.
Okay.
I believe it was approximately a year ago that Mr. Tony Covid came in and applied for a conditional use permit, and it was granted. However, Mr. Covid chose not to act on that previous conditional use permit, and he let it expire. He then applied to renew because he's grown more serious and has other investors, partners that are involved in this project. Mr. Covid owns this particular piece of property. His father owned the property prior. The city of Lava uses, I believe they actually now own the access easement that goes back to the sewer ponds and through his property. But it was granted to them or given to them by his father back in the day, shall we say. Anyway, he applied for a conditional use permit, granted with particular conditions taken from concerns of adjoining neighborhood that's being developed, subdivision, etc. And those conditions are on the record. If there's any other questions relative to those proceedings or items that are unclear, we'll be glad to answer them for you.
Was this the property that we had talked about being annexed into Lava so it would have access to the utilities and stuff? This seems like it was a year ago we were in this area.
No, not the one that we have the lawsuit on?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay,
No.
not that one.
So if you're
And
somewhat
that
acquainted,
that was an RV park. This is an RV storage.
correct.
All right.
If you're somewhat acquainted with this particular property coming out of Lava, I believe is Merrick Road.
Yep.
And as you continue to go west, you have the city limits. And then at one point, we talked about the old, I believe it was Elks property that was a park that was then purchased by the Pagnatos. And there were issues relative to that. The city owns a park directly in front from Merrick to the river, the Pagnatos from the park to the river, etc. Then there's a big piece and then a subdivision that's currently finished but under construction with residences, the access road, and then Mr. Covid's property.
Okay.
All of that has sewer and water in Merrick Road that runs due west and ends approximately at the subdivision. So in reality, our comment is this is our jurisdiction. If the city of Lava has such a great concern and wants to be able to dictate and have control relative to appealing council's decision, they should annex.
Correct.
And we're done.
So that's my question, and John's too, I think, is who is actually appealing this?
To the best of, I, as a comment, Commissioner, I don't know that I know. I believe it's Randy Banglin, and there is a gentleman, and I don't know his name, that came to the council meeting and appealed any decision in the affirmative. He was against it, and his testimony was the fact that we have a subdivision that's currently under construction with $600,000 to $800,000 homes that are being built, and the last thing we want to look at is the site of a storage facility.
And by the property.
I think he might be a lot owner in
In that subdivision.
that.
And that's, looking through here,
There's nothing.
I couldn't see who was appealing. I guess anybody has the right to appeal a decision, but just
Yeah,
kind
so
of be.
the application was submitted by Kate at Racine Olson. for her clients, Randy Banglin, and then I can't
Okay.
remember what the other gentleman's name is.
I'm sorry,
but-
what did you just say? The application?
Yeah, so the actual appeal application was submitted by their attorney, Kate, at Racine Olson.
Okay, so shouldn't that be included here though, so we can see who's appealing this? Wouldn't that be a normal part of the process? I know certainly when there's appeals in a court of law, we
Yeah,
know
that
who's,
probably would
who
be
are
a
the
normal
parties.
part, and that might just be a kink that we need to work out with our new system, because we've had to figure out a way to print these applications in our new system. But I'll make a note of that for future to make sure that information is on there.
And then another question I would have then is, did the appellant know we're having this
Yes,
meeting today?
yeah.
And how do we know that though? Because it's certainly not included here.
So it's one of the comments that they get inside the permitting portal. So we have a messaging system with our permitting portal that we can make them aware of upcoming meetings.
And then do they acknowledge that in the portal?
They cannot acknowledge it in the portal. It goes through a CityWorks email.
Can you tell if it's been viewed or not?
We can't.
But
So-
this is a on-the-record review, so they couldn't talk even if they was here.
They couldn't talk, but it seems to me that the appellant ought to know when we're having a meeting and certainly be able to attend if they wanted to.
Like,
Well, they can intend to watch it, but as long as we go through our normal notice and agenda requirements, that's considered notice to the public out there. But you're talking about specific notice to the appellant?
Well, I guess I'm wondering, what kind of notice are we required to give? Do we have to give specific
No.
notice? Do we, is
Just
this
notice an
system?
agenda on this, it's an on-the-record review, it's not a public hearing. So just notice.
So we've
like
met our notice requirements, is what
Correct.
you're saying?
Yes.
And are we broadcasting? So they do have access to see live.
I can just say that I've looked over the packet and I would uphold the council's recommendation to approve. I mean, it's a conditional use in a recreation area and it meets the standards of what's expected.
In this particular zone, it is an allowed use with an approved conditional use permit approved by council.
And I would agree with Commissioner Moser. I read through the packet and I couldn't see anything where council did anything inappropriate, so I would agree.
John, anything?
I agree. My only question really has nothing to do with this particular appeal. It was just, are we given proper notice and that type of thing? But I would agree that I would uphold this along with the way it's
So
worded.
before you go down that path, one of the items that most people don't understand, Commissioner Crowder, specifically for your education, is that we have the on-review or on-the-record appeal. There's no new testimony that's given. Once an action is taken here, if the applicant here disagrees and wants to go forward, they can then file for a reconsideration. At the reconsideration, that then gives them the opportunity to introduce any new testimony, any new evidence, et cetera, to the commission.
Yep.
And most people assume that this meeting is going to function like the reconsideration. And it's part of the ongoing education of the public
Yeah.
relative to our ordinance and how it works.
That part I understand. I just want to,
Okay.
it wasn't clear to me who the appellant was. And it also wasn't clear to me that the appellant, from what I have here, knew that we were going to even have this meeting, and they certainly should know, so.
Okay.
So along that line, do we charge them for this review that we just did?
Yes.
And then we charge them again
No.
for the next one?
The reconsideration does not have a fee associated
Okay,
with it.
that's what I wanted to clarify.
And I think the main fee is the transcript, right?
There's an appeal fee
An appeal
and then
fee with
plus
the
the cost of
transcript.
transcripts.
Okay,
All right, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we uphold the decision presented from Planning and Zoning Council.
we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With that being said, we are adjourned.